Basically, we're here tonight to try and teach you how to do what we call muscle testing. It's sometimes called kinesiology, biofeedback. There's a lot of different names they have for it. But the reason we want to do this is because it's becoming more and more apparent that the more you can do for yourselves, the less risk you're going to. In 2000, it was revealed that a major cause of death in this country is going to doctors. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's one of the leading causes of death is doctor visits. Well, in fact, we call it the third leading cause. Back in, then just recently they came out with it that doctors are probably the leading cause of death. And that's because of unnecessary surgery, infections secondary to overuse of antibiotics, drug reactions, and a lot of different things that go into this. And basically the bottom line is the more you can do for yourself, the more you can learn to or develop tools that will enable you to find out what you need, the better off you're going to be. So, and then the other thing that came to my attention recently was the fact that people are being forced to participate in Medicare. And in fact, it's gotten to the point now where some people that refuse to join Medicare are not getting Social Security benefits. And so they're gradually pushing more and more. They're going towards what they call a single-payer system, and most people probably look to the federal government to do the paying. But then the next thing that comes along is that medical care will be rationed, and also the fact that you will only be able to get certain politically correct procedures. And so if you want maybe acupuncture is kind of getting there, but if you want to use vitamins and minerals in the treatment of some disease, no, actually won't let you do it. And so it's getting kind of more and more control, more and more limitation on what's available. And so here again, the more you can learn to do for yourself, the better off you're going to be. So I think muscle testing is one of these. Did you know now that we're all going to be screened for mental illness too?
I read that not too long ago.
Pardon?
I read that not too long ago.
Yeah. President Bush is going to establish a goal for early mental health screening, assessment, and referral to services. They're going to do it with the young people, and they're going to do it with the old people, and they're going to do it with people that are different. So coming here might qualify you for come on in.
Thank you.
Just come on in and have a chair.
Well, the person's going to do it.
You missed the best part. You know, you don't get in there right at first, you miss the plot.
We got lost.
Oh, that's fine. Just have a chair.
Thank you.
Where do you want? Over here?
Any place you want, isn't it?
Yeah, any place you want.
Or is this the...
So anyway, they're going to start screening people for mental health, and if things continue to go, if they decide you have a mental problem, they are going to determine whether or not you need to be treated.
You wouldn't have a choice.
Pardon?
You wouldn't have a choice.
No. No, probably not. And this comes out of a Health Freedom Watch. And they point out that in totalitarian societies, the state pathologizes dissident as a mental disorder. So, you know, if you get a... Yeah, and so it's...
That's a lot of us are that way.
Yeah. Mr. Bush's proposal in principle would permit the same horrific abuses by putting Washington in charge of screening all school children and eventually all other Americans. That's typical, you know, they did it in Germany, they did it in Russia, they did it in Cuba, you know, totalitarian societies, they say, well, it's for your own good, we're going to put you in this little institution so you don't hurt yourself. So, anyway, the more you can, learn to take care of yourself. I don't know about your political views, I probably won't be able to do much to help you keep those correct, but we got a few things here that you can maybe
Go for it.
stay below the radar screen, I guess. That's what we all want to do. So, but that's getting more and more difficult to do. Well, the purpose of all this is to help you tap into what we call your intuitive mind. That's a part of your brain that is aware of everything and has all this knowledge and information, but traditionally we don't learn how to use it. So we rely on, you know, a referral or someone else's opinion or what we think is right, or we try to pick up something like a vitamin or and analyze it by reading the label. Well, none of us can really do that. We can read what's in there, but to know whether or how it's going to affect us, what dose we should use, is all guesswork. Unfortunately, much of what's done in medicine today is guesswork. You know, we may categorize you as a particular type of disease like diabetes or hypertension or cancer, etc. And then we go to the reference manuals or our training in that particular area and choose from one of the many medical or surgical options that are available for that condition. Those are the politically correct ones. So if you got diabetes, we put you on drugs that help increase your sensitivity to insulin, or we put you on a drug that increases your insulin production, and if that doesn't work, we put you on insulin. You know, they don't talk about food allergies, and they don't talk about acupuncture, and they don't talk about as much as we feel they should. But that's sort of a guess. And then you take something, you take a high blood pressure medication for a while, and if your blood pressure comes down, then that's a good doctor. But if it doesn't come down, we try another one. So in a lot of ways, even in this thing we call the practice of medicine, a lot of it's educated guessing. So the more we can do to help you stay away from that, the better off you're going to be. And I get back to your intuitive mind. Muscle testing or kinesiology, whatever you want to call it, is based on 4 or 5 basic premises. These are premises you probably will never see proof of because they're sort of they're sort of in the realm of philosophy or speculation or theoretical medicine. Although there's a good deal of fairly good science behind it. If you your interest is such that you pursue this, there's lots of reading material like everything else. There's lots of reading material. Probably the best book is, and this is a relatively new book, and I didn't get it in the back on this bibliography. It's called Virtual Medicine. It kind of summarizes all the different types of energetic medicine. You know, it talks about bioresonance, electrodermal, lightish therapy, electroacupuncture. It's a good summary of all these things, but there's lots of other good books. This one called Report on Radionics is another. This one's on the list.
Oh,
Yeah. So most of these others, but you pick one or two that and if you're interested, if it continues, then you'll learn. You'll come across other books, and so. But there's a lot of very intelligent people. The other thing is. In the back, there's a 800 number you can call and get this free catalog. It's called Acres USA. 800 number 355-5313, and they'll send you this catalog. And it has just about every imaginable type of book in here. It talks about the pyramid. It talks about edible weeds. It talks about DMSO, goat care, making wine. It's a fascinating catalog just to read the catalog. It gives you some idea of the scope of this whole area of alternatives and stuff. But basically, the muscle testing relies on about 5 basic principles. Now, these vary depending on who you read. But the first one is that every object and every thought has an energy field. So everything in the universe is some form of energy. And this energy field is created the minute someone thinks of a new thought or creates a new object. If you take a bunch of raw materials and build something that no one else has ever built before, or even if it's similar to what other people have built before, we've got a new object and we have a new energy field. because no two things are just alike. Okay? And number two is that once this energy field is created, or organized is a better word, because you really don't create anything from nothing. Once it's organized, it's in the universe. It's everywhere in the universe immediately. That's why we have to be careful what we think, because your thoughts go a long ways. Okay, and number three, that our minds are aware of all these different energy fields. This part of our mind that we don't use very much is there for receiving and analyzing this sort of information. Okay, number four is that our minds understands these energy fields, and at the same time it takes this energy field and can, if we ask it to, relate it to what's going on in our body. Our body is constantly receiving, processing, analyzing, and reacting to information from various parts. For example, if I sit too long in this position, I don't have to really think about it. I'll just shift my weight to take some pressure off that bone back there, and what that does is it allows blood. If I sat here long enough, I'd get a bed sore because I'd compress the blood flow to the particular parts, and that's why people that lay in bed without moving for long periods of time, the skin breaks down, and but if our body's working normally, we shift. It's all automatic. And not only that, if my blood sugar starts to fall, my brain receives a signal. I release a substance called glycogen from my muscles, and which is converted into sugar, and my blood sugar goes back up. And for every little function in your body, our brain is constantly analyzing this information, not only in our blood, in our lymph, and from all the different parts of our body. Now the fifth principle that we rely on is the fact that you cannot lie to yourself without a change in your energy level. And that's where the title of his book came. Your body doesn't lie. Now we can say something, but you can't fool the body. And when we do lie, or say something that's not true, even if we're not aware that it's not true, then certain chemical changes take place in our body, and muscles tend to go weak. And actually our immune system shifts also. And we have less immunity if we aren't living the truth. So based on those principles, people have developed this whole concept called muscle testing. And basically, everything has an energy field. Our brain is analyzing constantly, and muscle testing, or kinesiology, all we're doing is focusing the brain on a particular energy field. Okay, but each of our cells has all the information. And if we look at, anybody hear DAOs? DAOs, water witching. Yeah. Well, basically that's what a water witcher does, is he finds some sort of a tool. Here's some dowsing rods, and what they do, they program in their mind what they want to find. And then they keep thinking about that as they go looking for the object. And when they come to it, the rods will usually cross. And then when they go past it, they will uncross. Their skill seems to depend upon their ability to concentrate. How well they can focus, come on in, how well they can focus on a particular object.
That really works too. I have a good friend that somebody lost
Oh, well, this is fine. Thanks.
somebody lost a gold ring on the lawn, and he was able to find it by using those rods there.
Thank you.
You think I'd say something that didn't work? I'm just bringing something I
Well,
did.
some people know how to do that. I can't. I
Well,
tried
yeah.
it and it didn't work.
How often have you tried it, though?
Oh, just once.
See, that's what we've got to be careful about. See, we sometimes think if I gave you a Steinway grand piano, you wouldn't think that you could learn to play it very well the first time, would you? No. And that's one thing that we'll emphasize over and over, is that for this to work, you've got to do it. You've got to practice it. This is just, we're just kind of skimming the surface to be good, but it's an invaluable tool. It just gives all sorts of help. Yes?
My father was a water dowser for decades for water.
Uh-huh.
And he had relative success. And then one evening, they were talking about it in the parlor, and someone says, well, can you find anything else? And he says, I don't know. So they started hiding rings, like you say, around under the carpet. And darned if he didn't find them all.
No.
So he thought, I should have been looking for gold all these years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they say gold is one of the hardest ones to find.
Yeah.
Some people go into it in such depth, they feel like, and a lot of the people will use a pendulum. And the people that are proficient with a pendulum, which is, see, whether I use the dowsing rods or the pendulum, it's basically just an extension of my nervous system. But it's a little more sensitive. See, this wiggles a lot easier than my finger would. Someone real sensitive could probably just go out like this and sense that energy field from the water just with their hands. But most people find it's easier to use some sort of an extension that seems to be even more sensitive. But you have to practice, and people good at one thing are probably, but they say, one of the books about dowsing says, you can tell what you're finding by the number of revolutions it makes, the speed at which something revolves. And some people have developed this to such a science that if it's silver, if it's lead, if it's copper, it has a different frequency of rotation. But the people at the dowsing school I went to said, don't try and get rich dowsing. Don't try and use these things for that purpose. Okay, so dowsing, holograms, that sort of, do any of you see auras? We're talking about energy fields. And we're talking about, and we kind of went through these first 5 points here that we feel that I'm trying to show that these are what make muscle testing work, these 5 things. Okay.
She sees auras.
Yeah.
Who does?
Could you describe them for us?
Yeah.
You're kind of a, right now, kind of a reddish orange.
Okay.
He's a blue. She's kind of a green. She's
Yellow.
a blue-green.
Do you see him too?
An orange.
Oh, you see him too?
Well,
He's kind of an orange. She's blue. She's kind of in between a blue and a green.
And those colors have significance?
The blue means...
A blue means that you're usually relaxed, able to go. Red, orange is curious, interested. Lavender is kind of one of those funny ones that it can mean several things. A blue-green is you're interested and you're curious as kind of what's going on. And I've been able to see these colors since I was tiny. I didn't know that other people couldn't see them. And I was talking to my mother, I think. I don't remember because I was pretty little, and I was asking her why she was red, and she looked at me like, what rock did you crawl out from under? But I've been able to see them since I was very, very tiny, and I didn't, at the time, like I said, I didn't know anybody. I thought everybody could see them.
Aura change colors?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Some people use auras as kind of a diagnostic tool sometimes.
Sometimes I can tell when
if she
people aren't
irritates me
well.
enough, then I turn red.
Sometimes I can tell when somebody's not
Have you
well.
ever looked at a dead person?
No, but I've looked at dead animals.
Do they have an aura?
Yes. Everything has an aura.
Even after they die?
Even after they die, everything has an aura. It fades within a little while.
Yeah.
But everything has an aura.
Can you look in the mirror and see your own?
Sometimes, depending on well, depending on a lot of things.
Sure.
Sometimes I can see it, and sometimes I can't.
Well, see, you'd probably make a very good dowser.
I can douse for water,
Yeah.
but I have to have a willow stick. I can't use your your metal
Well,
things.
they've got, these are the newer versions of the willow sticks.
Oh.
They're plastic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
So are those, if I can ask one quick question, is it, do you see a circle or is it just a
It's a-
haze of a color?
It's a color all the way around you. You emit a color all over. And if you're really extremely interested, your color will be kind of a red-orange around your head, and then as it goes down, your color changes as it goes down through your body.
it's just a manifestation of this energy field. Probably everything has an aura, but not as, I mean, that metal pole's aura isn't going to be as dramatic as a living person's aura. We call them auras, but it's an energy field that surrounds everything. Here's what we call a Kirlian photograph. That's a fingertip. And that's a pretty good pattern because it's uniform. Some people feel that by looking at these and seeing the different dips and doodles, you can get some idea of the level of health of that person by looking at this. And after they die, here again, this fades, and after a while, it's probably just so subtle because sure, even a dead body will have an energy field, but not nearly as vibrant or as active as someone who's living. So there's all sorts of real evidence that we are living in the middle of an energy. It's all energy. If we compare, see, we're all made up of elements, which are made up of molecules, which are made up of atoms. Now, they tell me, and I can't do the math with this sort of thing, but they say an atom, which is sort of like our solar system, and the nucleus of an atom would be like the sun, and then going around the nucleus are certain numbers of what we call electrons, which would be similar to the planets in our solar system orbiting the sun. Now they say that relative size is about the same. Each molecule is relatively the same in the same proportion as our solar system. So you can see we're mostly hot air, right?
Empty space.
And the only reason we're held together is because there's an energy field that, see, I can't put my hand through that wall, even though both my hand and the wall are mostly space. Now these are things I have trouble comprehending, but they're fascinating thoughts. But here again, energy. This room is full of energy. We could stack the room full of cell phones, and if we hit the right frequency, each one would ring. But we take the phones out of here, the energy didn't disappear. That energy is still here. And so like the energy from all our thoughts and our beings and all these things, it fills the universe. It's energy pollution. There's so much of it. But we have electromagnetic pollution that's added to that, and that's more stressful to us because it's not necessarily good energy. In fact, it's probably harmful. That's why some people worry about cell phones, and there's ways to block those energy fields. But it's full. The room is full. And it's interesting. Some people, we start talking about these things, and some people are kind of offended because they think we're getting into the area of Ouija boards and seances where we raise the table and things. Well, I think it's the same energy, but it depends on how you use it. It's like any other good thing, I think. The real good things are the things that are most frequently corrupted. If you want to corrupt someone, give them enough money. Yeah. Or if you want to make someone sick, give them enough poor quality refined food. Money, food, sex, power, all these things that are necessary and can be good are also things that are frequently abused. It's because they're pretty much low down on our brain stem. The first thing we want to do is breathe and eat. But we also know that if you give a brand new baby too much oxygen, they go blind. So there's this, something's good, but too much can be bad for us. And it's sort of the same way with this sort of an energy phenomenon. I think this is an invaluable tool if you don't try and abuse it. And that's what the dowsers try to teach when they go to their school. Say, don't look for oil or gold or things like that. Go out and use this as a tool to help people. You know, one of the dowsers told the story of back in the 60s, there was a drought in California. Some of you may remember it. If you ever went down there, the toilets all say, only flush for number 2. You know, it sounds like it. Anyway, a rice farmer went out of business, was going out of business because he had a 2,000, 8,000, I can't remember, huge rice farm. I don't know why they ever want to farm rice in California, it's so water intensive. But his well went dry, and all the government geologists, none of them could find water until he hired this old dowser, and within an hour, he said he found a pump that could pump 1,000 gallons, a well that could pump 1,000 gallons an hour. You know, it works. But you know, he charged him $50 because that's all the time it took. You know, he could have charged him $10,000. That's kind of people that become good dowsers, I think. They aren't trying to get rich. They're just trying to use that skill, that gift. Okay. Now, when we do muscle testing, I think it's very important that we keep this in mind, that our intelligence, like it says here, ever eager to find out the truth, and with good reason, concentrates on the causes of phenomena, and this may well prove misleading and deceptive. Rather, one must admit, in the present state of knowledge, no conclusion appears to be totally satisfactory. One must have the wisdom to avoid coming to conclusions. The scientific attitude should be one of benevolent curiosity. That's what we want to, you know, if some people just don't want to do this sort of stuff. If they can't really feel it or see it or touch it or having some sort of a formula for it, they're just uncomfortable with it. And that's not good nor bad, it's just different personalities. I had an uncle that way, and a very frustrating uncle. He was my favorite uncle, but he was a mining engineer, and he just had all the details. He developed cancer of the esophagus. Well, probably 6 months before he developed that, I'd come across a doctor from Greece who had found that if you will drink urea, you can get rid of cancer of the esophagus. Now, cancer of the esophagus is a very bad cancer. It's a very difficult place to operate on. And the esophagus goes down and joins the stomach, and that's usually where it develops. Well, if you cut that out, you have a real mess down there. It's very difficult to get things working again. And it spreads to the liver quite early. Well, my uncle, being the mechanical person that he was, got the information I sent him. Well, then he had all these questions. And so he wrote about a 5 or 6 page letter to this doctor in Greece. And he kept saying to me, well, as soon as I get the answers to my questions, you know, I'll probably do that. Well, urea, you can buy it down here at the feed store. You can get 50 pounds for probably $10. So it's very, very cheap. It's very, very safe. It doesn't taste good, but it's not a real stressful thing to take. And I'm tearing my hair out because I'm feeling that if you just start drinking the urea, he might get over this. But he didn't. And he didn't hear from the doctor, he didn't hear from the doctor, and then he died.
Oh, my.
Very frustrating.
Really?
You can't get mad at people like that, but I felt really bad because I just thought, why won't he just go get some urea and drink it? But you know, he was the kind of person. So he should have had more benevolent curiosity and just gone in and done it. But anyway, so we don't want to be too rigid. We want to keep our minds open, and you always want to. Another thing I think is important, that we always want to consider the consequences of being wrong. Now, we aren't going to suggest you muscle test with chemotherapy or radiation therapy or the stock market or something that has a high risk potential. The things we encourage people to muscle test on are those things that have a very wide safety margin. See, there goes that energy field. See, it stresses her out. That's okay. the vitamins and minerals and the glandulars and the enzymes and things like that, we recommend people muscle test on it. It's sort of like sort of like this. We can kind of graph this, and the graph goes something like this. If we put over here on this axis the level of health a person achieves, and over here the amount of any particular substance that's necessary for life. And this would apply to vitamins, minerals, water, oxygen, protein, fat, and everything like that. So if we don't have any of it, we're down here at 0, we'll probably die. Maybe not immediately, but if you don't have water, you'll probably die within a few days. If you don't have air, you'll die within a few minutes. So as we increase our consumption of that, our health improves until we reach a point up here someplace that we are at the optimum amount of intake. Okay? And even if we increase it more, our health won't improve. Now, if we keep taking more and more and more, eventually we'll reach a point where it will actually become harmful and our health will deteriorate. So whether we're talking about water or oxygen or high protein or high fat or any of these things, there is a point of diminishing returns. Now, it's the same thing for medications. But the difference being, you take your medication and you get healthier, but if you take a little bit too much, your health deteriorates. So the safety margin is very narrow. That's one of the reasons why so many people die from drug interactions. And so the main difference is the safety margin. So that's why I'm comfortable encouraging people to muscle test. So you muscle test and you take, instead of 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C, you take 8,000. What are the consequences? Loose stools. That's not real. The other thing you keep in mind is that most of us are malnourished. That's why most people are sick. We aren't getting enough. It's a very interesting phenomena. Back in I can't remember the date, but 150, 200 years ago, they discovered that sailors would quit dying from scurvy if they sucked a little piece of a lime occasionally. And they found out that there was vitamin C in lime juice, and that was enough to keep them from developing scurvy. And so they thought, wow. Then, unfortunately, the thought process went to, well, if we don't get scurvy, we're getting enough vitamin C. Well, Linus Pauling came along and said, oh no. He said, you take 100 times what that will prevent scurvy, and you'll prevent heart disease and cancer. Well, see, that wasn't politically correct. You don't make very much money selling vitamin C.
That's true.
The same phenomenon has happened with several other things. Iodine's another good example. They found out if you gave people a little bit of seaweed, they didn't get a goiter. And so they assumed that if you had enough iodine to prevent a goiter, you had all you needed. Well, now they come along and say, no, take 100 times more than that and you won't get cancer. But there's no, here again, you can't come out and say iodine will prevent cancer because the FDA makes that illegal. And so unless there's some way to make money on a product, they become what we call orphaned Medicaid vitamins or minerals or whatever, because no one's there to take care of them and promote them. But this is this is why muscle testing is really so safe. So not only do we encourage people to learn to muscle test, but we don't throw common sense out just because we've muscle tested. We still have to think about the results we think we have, and then think about it just a minute. And they say, take the whole bottle 3 times a day. You say, oh, wait a minute. Who's in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the
Okay.
cat.
The cat, huh? Okay. So, okay. Then, the next one we've kind of referred to is the point that if we keep doing it, it'll get easier. That which we persist in doing becomes easier. The nature of it doesn't change, but our ability to do it improves. So you've got to go home and practice. You've got to do this if you want to become comfortable and confident and proficient at it. Okay, now how do we do it? There's lots of different ways. Some people think you have to take the test object and hold it in a certain position. Keep in mind that all we're trying to do is focus your brain on a substance. So you can just hold it in your hand. You can think it, but it's hard to think of one thing for more than just a few seconds. So I don't like that way. I think some people either have to hold it and try and keep their brain in neutral gear, or they should maybe say the word over and over again, or have a piece of paper with the particular topic written on it. Now, one real, I am not really against multi-level marketing and stuff, because I think there's some good things out there, but I've found that some people that get into multi-level marketing, it becomes their whole life. And so every time you see them approaching, you think, oh no, I'm going to hear another, I'm going to get another testimony, or I'll have some samples that he's got a new product. And so it becomes kind of, anyway, this gives us an excellent opportunity to tell the person, no, you can muscle test whatever they're selling, and if you test weak, you've got a great excuse for saying no thank you.
Exactly.
And you may find, though, that some of the products are good, and you may want to use some. But it's a great tool for making that decision. And then they can't get upset because you say no. You say, I test weak, I can't use it. So anyway, it's a little... Okay. And the other great use for it, I think, is that we all get probably several pieces of mail a week with products someone's trying to sell to us. You know, try this, try this, try this, and you know, you have a tendency, at least I do, to just kind of throw everything away. And I may be throwing some good things away. Well, with muscle testing, once you get comfortable with it, you can take the brochure of a product and test the brochure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because all we're doing, here again, focusing the energy, our brain, on that particular unique. See, if you get a blue-green algae that comes directly from Klamath Falls and the product's name is Seagull, I don't know. Well, okay, the more it's like a radio station. You know the old-fashioned dial we used to turn? You didn't have the buttons to push anymore. You could turn it, you get static and static, and as you got closer, it got clearer and clearer, but if you went too far, you got static again. Well, see, the more you can identify, the more closely you can identify what you want to test, the clearer the signal will be. By holding a brochure, as long as it's just talking about one thing, you've got pretty much all the information you need. All that your brain needs to respond in an appropriate manner. That make sense?
How do you know it's not mind over matter, or your brain responding to that thing with negative thoughts that have been programmed into your mind by somebody else?
Well, that comes with practice. You've got to learn to put your mind in neutral and focus on what you're testing,
Okay.
rather than focusing on what Joe told you about
Yeah,
this. His
okay.
aunt used it and she got
Yeah.
rectal bleeding for 6 weeks. And
Yeah.
you try and avoid that. And sometimes it helps just by, as you hold this, maybe even look at it and say the word over, repeat the word in your brain. But that comes with practice. It's, you know, you're just like, how do you make your right hand play the one rhythm and the left hand play another rhythm?
You don't.
Yes, you do.
I
If you
don't.
practice.
I tried
If you
it.
practice, you know, you're syncopated down here and you're trying to play.
Oh,
Yeah, but it takes practice.
Mhm.
Yeah. But our brains are amazing. I had a lady that used to transcribe for us here. She could listen to the tape on the tape recorder and be typing and talking to you at the same time. That's how her mind, how good. Have you seen people that play the piano and talk to you at the same time, haven't you?
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of people like that. But anyway, with practice, you learn to push out that. Okay, so what we're trying to do basically in a nutshell is help you find a way to avoid having to guess about what you're doing. And the muscle testing is a huge step away from that. And in addition, you can also, and I'll show that, we maybe demonstrate this, how you can not only find out what you need, but you can find out what dose you need. Okay, now, maybe I'd like to volunteer.
I'd like to volunteer my mom.
You can't do that. You can't volunteer someone else. Come on up here. Okay, now when we muscle test, let's see, how can we do this? 'Cause,
Just put your chair.
Use that chair,
pardon?
use that chair.
I want her standing up.
Oh, okay.
I want her standing up. Could you sit over there for a minute?
Yeah, I sure
Sure,
could.
okay.
You'll just
Can you get out of there? Why don't you just come right over here? Make you pay for letting your phone ring. Okay.
talk about energy. I went in that energy or in that room to answer, and it wouldn't answer.
Huh,
And I
There was a
had to go-
concrete wall on one side of it, and that may
Is
be
that what it
something.
was?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It went for-
Okay, now what we do, to begin, we like to have people's mind put in neutral. And one way of doing this is to do this little exercise where you just take your hands and bring them together in the midline and interlock the fingers. Another way is to tap your thymus point. Now your thymus point is on your breastbone, about 2 inches below the notch. There's a little ridge in most people. You can feel if you put 2 or 3 fingers on there and rub it up and down. Think of the great ape, when they're ready to fight someone, they tap their thymus. You can tap that a few times. There's an affirmation you can say, and we'll get to that later. But so just before we test, you just kind of give it that. Okay. Now, when we test, you can use any muscle you want. Usually we do the big muscles because they're easier. If I was a big, strong guy and she's a little weak lady, she could fold her arm like this, I could push here. That gives her less leverage. If she's testing a big person, she can put her arm out like this. You can test the arm, let go a minute. You can test the arm from this position and just push in like this. Sometimes if you're out in public and you don't want to be going up like this, you can just put your arm in. You can test any muscle. Chiropractors use the legs. Different muscles are associated with different organs. Some chiropractors test for organ strength and health by testing the muscles. So there's lots of different ways, but for demonstration purposes, we just use the big arm muscle here. I put this arm over here just to balance her. You don't want to be too far away, you don't want to be too close. And she should look at something neutral, like a wall or the sky or something like this. Don't look in the eye of the tester. Okay? So both tester and testee should try and think neutral thoughts. Benevolent curiosity. Is this good? Or is this? And so then it only takes a second or two to test, just couple fingers, and before you push, you tell the person you're going to push. So I just say resist, and then I push for 1 or 2 seconds. That's all I need to do, and we both get a feeling of her strength level. Okay? And we should agree. Now the first time that's where she is today. Second time, when she makes a statement, we compare to the first time. Okay, now say out loud, my name is Donna.
My name is Donna.
Okay, resist. Hold it strong. What's happened? What did we just learn? Her name's not Donna. Yeah, okay?
Like,
Okay. She cannot lie. Now really try hard. My name is Donna.
my name is Donna.
Hold it.
My name is Donna.
You can't lie. What did you tell me? My name is?
My name is Sherry.
Is it? Is there a difference?
Oh, wow, it really is, yeah.
Huh. Well, thanks.
It's amazing.
The lie detector test.
Well, no, I thought that too. When I first learned this, I thought, wow, my children will not be able to lie to me anymore. But children are so smart.
No.
They
come
will
on.
say one thing and think another and fool you. So it's not, don't use it for that purpose. See, that's not what it's for. Anyway, so we both now have experienced the difference between the truth and a non-truth. Okay? So now we're ready to test them. Whatever we want to test. See, her brain knows everything. Is aware of everything. And so our problem is thinking up what we want to get out of her. You have to be careful. You don't want to invade someone's space, anyway, we're just here to test muscles.
Okay.
Yeah.
My secrets.
Just as an aside, though, sometimes people another good test is we ask people if they're ready to get well. See, and so we can just say. I usually suggest the first time we test, I say, this is a good day for me to be tested.
This is a good day for me to be tested.
Resist? Yeah, she tests strong. So it only takes me a second. We resist 1 or 2 seconds and it's over. The test is over. Okay, so now we want to know if this is good for her. Somebody told her, boy, you ought to really take this stuff. It's good enzymes. It'll prevent a heart attack. And what's she supposed to do if I tell her that? She can believe me. Or she could test it, see? Okay, so now she doesn't even know what this is. We don't even need to tell her. She can have her eyes closed. And we just say, this is good for me. See, that's what she's been tested before. See what she does? You don't have to hold it there. You can put it
I can,
anywhere.
anyway,
Yeah.
this is good for me?
Okay, no question.
This is good for me.
Resist?
Yeah.
No. Okay. How long did that take? Sure a lot quicker than reading the label.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, if you read the label, what do you know? You know it's in here, but we don't see what her brain has done. In 2 seconds or less, her brain analyzed this energy field. Her brain then put it into her computer, and her computer analyzed her body chemistry and everything about it,
Hallelujah.
and gave an answer
That
in
is
2
something.
seconds or less. It can do it faster than I can test her. Yes.
Is it always accurate in prescription drugs?
Be careful. Most prescription drugs are bad for you.
Yeah, well, that seems like.
But see, here's the problem with that. See, people frequently ask me, well, should I vaccinate my children? Well, we know vaccinations can be bad, but if you're not going to do anything else to protect your children, if you're going to feed them a bunch of sugar and processed food and homogenized pasteurized milk, and well, you better do something to protect your kids, and maybe vaccination is an answer for you.
Okay, what if you ask the question, is this prescription drug the best way to heal my body?
Well, that's the question. We
Oh,
make
no,
statements.
no, okay, just say it. This prescription drug is the best way to heal my body.
That's your choice. But see, if you go weak, then you've got some big responsibility to figure out what is better for you.
Well, it's a good start.
Yeah, yeah, sure it is.
You don't ask a question though?
No, you want to make it. See, a question can't be a lie. See, we don't know if it's true or false.
Uh-huh.
Questions can't be true or false.
Uh-huh.
So you just make a statement that's true or false.
I see.
This is good for me.
True or
Not,
false?
is this good for me?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now, what do we want to know next about this? We know it's good for her.
How
What if you
much?
ask it if this is bad for me?
Well, let's find
Yes,
out.
that-
See, that's a good question. See, if we aren't sure, if she says, I think I'm a little stronger, I say, no, I think you're a little weaker. Then we just reverse the statement. This is bad for me. This is bad for me.
This is bad for me.
Resist?
No, I couldn't hold it.
Honest.
No, no, it just.
I mean, immediate.
It just.
Well, you'll be up here in just a minute.
That's right.
Okay, so we know quickly
That's a lie,
that
right?
that's a lie.
This is bad for me, that's a lie.
Yeah.
This is a good- yeah.
This is good for me. and it's
Yeah.
not. Okay, now we want to know how many she needs. Now, if we just read the label, it
Well,
says.
Maybe don't read it. Don't read the label, because that might be in your mind already. You know, can you do it without that?
Well, sure you can. Okay, we'll do that first, then see what the label says.
Okay.
Okay, I say I need 2 of these a day.
I need 2 of these a day.
Okay, resist. Okay,
I need 3 of these a day.
resist.
No,
Let's keep going. Let's see if we can hit that, the top of that curve.
Okay, I need 4 of these a day.
Resist.
I need 5 of these a day.
Resist.
Okay, I need 6 of these a day.
Resist.